Welcome, everybody. Apologies, I'm a few minutes late. Excited to be live with you all and getting started on a Monday evening. So, hopefully, there'll be a few more people that can catch this live. Make sure that you are signed up to my YouTube channel, which is Alara Dawn, the Modern Day High Priestess, and you'll be able to get replays as well. So excited to be sharing with you, as many of you are probably noticing, there is a big collective shift. There is even something that's called conscious resignation at the moment, where people are making conscious decisions to leave workplaces that are no longer aligned. The values don't align, the vision doesn't align, the opportunities to be unapologetically yourself whilst in the workplace is not there. And if you've been following me for the past 2 years, really, I've been banging this drum, and I've been letting people in corporate worlds and those running their businesses know that this is coming. This is not going to be something we can avoid. It's not going to be something we can stick our head in the sand and just identify as being woke. This is about people activating and awakening part of themselves that they will not be able to deny, which is their soul. Now, this is where we really go deep into what's happening collectively, and there is a massive shift. There is a massive collective, what's called dark night of the soul, occurring at this time. Dark night of the soul is something that it is a belief construct, but it is a period of time where it feels like everything is falling apart. It feels like you might be massively stuck. You're massively out of alignment. You feel that you have massively outgrown your current experience, whether that's relationship, workplace, reality. You're no longer aligning yourself with relationships, friends, people around you. It feels like, why am I here? What's the point? And this is why it's quite interesting that there is obviously a huge amount of issues with mental health happening at this time, because I will do another live on this, whether it's mental breakthrough or mental breakdown, and both have connotations energetically and spiritually. And through any challenge that makes us face really the reality of the discomfort, we are faced with contrast, and that contrast will then often allow us to get to a level of refinement within, to recognize what we actually want. We reach a limit, and I might share a blog post on this actually, called "Are You Done Yet?" And it's almost like, well, I'm sort of done, nearly done, halfway done, and then you just get to the point where you're like, I'm absolutely done with this, zero tolerance now, raise the standards, walk away, cut the ties. But often people take so long in getting to that stage of listening to their soul, of listening to the messages of the desires that have been there for so long, that it becomes a huge disentanglement to be able to make those changes. And I invite you to consider that we are going through such a precipice of change energetically that we're going to be called upon to refine our values, our beliefs, our choice points, probably every couple of months. And this is because each time we refine those things, we get closer to who we actually are, closer to our actual truth, closer to a realization that the inner alignment to our North Star is actually what we're being guided back to, which then means that we're no longer being influenced by the agendas of others, the agendas of society, the collective consciousness, and the collective belief systems around, fear and scarcity. So this really is coming back into this realization that when we start to slow things down, when we tap into soul, we're going to get guidance which actually expands us and aligns us to something that will give us the most fulfillment, expansion, pleasure, wealth, money, abundance, and opportunities. But it comes through the initiation of letting go of mental constructs, the 3D reality of, past being projected into the future, and looking for your answers outside of you, in amongst friends, family, friendship groups, society, who are all on their individual soul path, all at their own individual level of soul evolution, and the answers are not going to be there. So it keeps on bringing you back to this inner refinement again. And when we don't know what that is, when we don't know that that is what's going on, It's terrifying. And that's one of the reasons why I'm broadcasting across LinkedIn, the business finance, communities, YouTube and Facebook, because this is something that is, nobody's hiding from it. Nobody's avoiding it. It can at times feel like an identity shift, a personality shift, because it is in effect, because much of our personality comes from developmental stages of how the personality is developed in very early stages, and defense mechanisms. We are operating through masks because we knew that was the only way to get our needs met. And it's getting difficult. It's getting difficult to stay ignoring the inner compass, the inner whispers, the signs. You might start to notice things like, angel numbers. You'll notice that my business is Pure Light 1111. 1111 is an activator. It's an awakening code. It's something that energetically, if you imagine numerology, it holds a frequency. As energetic beings, we experience code energetically, meaning it affects us on a DNA level and energetically. This means that starting to notice angel numbers or synchronicity, or you say something and then something happens, you're beginning to notice more of who you are than just the 3D, meat suit. You begin to realize the interconnectedness and the fact that you are a co-creator with the interrelationness of everything around you, your reality. From your perspective to your thoughts have power, your words have so much power, and really beginning to come into that awareness that potentially who you have created your life to be is not actually your truth. And at this time, it's beginning to really bubble to the surface. Was I really put on this planet to be sat in a job where I'm drained and I sit in front of a computer all day and the conversations don't feed my soul and nobody really actually knows who I am? And probably not. And the only person that can get you out of this, or not out, but to evolve through, is yourself. It's that inner refinement. Know yourself. It's a big key thing that I've been mentioning in some of the leadership conversations I've been having with Sarah. If you watch back on my pages, know yourself. And this is literally an ongoing journey because you are a multidimensional being. And the topic of today's session is really around finding your purpose, your soul purpose, really tapping into the expansion of that and where money comes into play with it as well. Because we can't really go on the soul path without acknowledging your multidimensional self. Meaning that there are parts of you at different consciousness levels that are accessible to you. And at this point in time, collectively, as the awakening happens, people will be taking their consciousness from a 3D reality, which is just the knowledge of this linear 3D reality, the illusion of that, into 4D, which I call the Wild West, which is the astral plane, which there are many playgrounds, many teachers in many forms, lots of illusion, lots of trickery, lots of unfair playing, lots of tests to stretch you with your energetic boundaries. It will show up in your woundings because everything will start to play out. You'll notice it in dreams. You'll notice it in synchronicities. You'll notice really the fact that you are operating on multi-levels. Now, when the collective at this time are going through Dark Night of the Soul, that's why we're getting all of the people beginning to see beyond the facade, the glamour of, say, this certain film industries. And what we're presented with is a glamour, which is actually a magic technique anyway. It's part of the illusion. We buy into it, has an emotional connection. We have the false gods, which are essentially like the movie stars that we've placed there and we worship and we emulate and we copy. And it's a glamour, it's a facade. Now, when we begin to go through an awakening, we begin to see beyond the facade. Not just see, we feel. It comes in from the heart. Your heart is an electromagnetic field. And quite frankly, everything is energy and energy does not lie. So when we start to recognize and feel more into our environments, into the intentions of people, you might even start to pick up on the thought forms of other people. You might realize that you're taking on the emotional energy of other people. You might find yourself, like I did today, I got my nails done and I came out of there and I was like, oh my gosh, my energy is completely drained. It was so negative in there. I'm not going to go back. You start to realize your frequency has shifted. You're no longer in alignment to be in certain environments. It doesn't serve me to be in an environment where, somebody is not the right energetic field for me to be having my nails done or to be interacting with me in that way. So I will find somewhere else. I allow that interconnectedness, that flow, because there's always something else. There's always something better. There's always something more expanded. It's never truly limited. There's multiple timelines, multiple options. And that means I'm not attached to it. I don't need to create a story about it. I don't need to allow one blip in my day to, cast a shadow over everything. And that takes time and mastery because, we get attached to our routines. As humans, we get very, very stuck in routines and habits. And actually that is part of the trap when we are wanting to expand into soul purpose, because we have to recognize that when we can shift one belief and that can collapse a timeline, and we can then elevate into multitude of different opportunities because we are vibrating differently. We are creating from a different set point, and we are no longer aligned to bring in people to show us something around a certain limiting belief because we've now expanded into something else. So this can happen on the micro and macro, on very small, subtle levels, and then also relationships. And, all relationships show you something about you. Because when we understand the kind of the holographic nature of reality, as within, so without, we are understanding that everything that comes into your experience has some kind of like for like frequency. So it's always not necessarily a mirror, but it is just showing you something, either in the way that you respond to something, or also your ability to see something for what it is, recognize, not inviting that into my field or my experience, and allowing you to redirect. It allows you to actually stay more neutral. So you're not getting charged up and triggered and making stories, because this is the thing, the drama triangle, the victim, rescuer, and persecutor. Whenever we're in that pantomime, which all of the 3D construct is played through stories. Stories aren't necessarily real, but we have learnt through story. And when we've realized that a lot of what we are maybe disappointed by, our expectations of life, even the path that we've taken on our life, i.e., you're expected to go to school, then you go to university, then you get into this job, and then that's where your value is. You go on this path, and that is the right path. That's all belief systems that are man-made. So that means they all have their own morphogenic field of consciousness. The more people that have followed them feed that morphogenic field, i.e. collective consciousness. So you can be plugged into multiple different fields of consciousness that influence your choices in who you think you are. And the work that I do with my clients is often to go in and actually dismantle and take them out of certain fields of consciousness, clear certain programming that they have been maybe inheriting. There's certain strong belief constructs in the family, for example, that success looks a certain way, or women must, behave in a certain way, or you're expected to get married by this time, or all these things. These are other people's projections. All of these things are often, when people are waking up, they're realizing that they've created a life based on everybody else's desires except their own. And because we have been programmed, whether it's through religion, whether it's just not being, even girls by the age of 6 don't make eye contact, because ultimately that's seen as confrontational. So they learn to not be too wild, not too messy, not too noisy, not to themselves, because that's too much. So they already learn to silence their intuition, silence that charge of energy, which is actually their natural creative life force, and mute themselves to fit in. And we all know that when you try to mute something, the energy is still there and the wheels are going to come off at some point. And pretty much whether that is emotional suppression, creative suppression, whatever else it is, it cannot stay contained. And the Pandora's box is really what's kind of happening in this awakening stage, because people have all this trapped emotion. They've not spoken their truth. They've not been seen or heard properly through relationships or through, childhood, and because those traumas have meant that they've attracted certain partners that emulate the same things. They're now in a work environment that maybe repeats that, and people are beginning to get to a point where they're questioning, why am I here? What's the purpose of this? They're getting to their, I call it the ground zero. And this often is the choice point. And it's a really powerful time because many other people, this awakening process has been happening for many years. It started probably, that I'm aware of, people in about 2008. There was in the run up to the 2012 shift. We had two opportunities for Earth to ascend a different consciousness, and we missed those gateways. So it's been pretty tough for people over the past 7 or 8 years, because the way showers have been processing energetically karma, all the energetic stuff through themselves, through their healing abilities, whatever's been directed towards them as way showers. So those that are like myself were through like baptisms of fire to really activate and connect to soul, purpose, embody my gifts that I've had in many lifetimes, not only for myself, but so that I could actually start seeding and helping people that were going through these shifts get onto purpose, start to elevate and heal the past traumas, rewrite the scripts, change the story up rapidly, collapsing time. That's one of my gifts. And being able to do it in a multi-dimensional way, because ultimately, when we are talking about raising your vibration and frequency, we're talking about the descension and ascension, which means we go into the shadows, which is really our ally. We clear through past trauma, karma, imprints, whatever is holding the frequency in a denser form. When we elevate and clear that, we allow more light, which is allowing more of your soul into the vessel. The true meaning of as above, so below, or bringing heaven onto earth, is about bringing your 5D soul consciousness more into the body. And we're all moving towards that in our own way, at our own rate. And there's no judgment. None of us are to sit and wait for anybody else. None of us are to wait and fix. The fixing energy that's all the drama triangle stuff. That's coming from the 3D construct. But actually, the way that you lead in this evolution that we're going through is by actually doing your inner work to illuminate, because your light is magnetic, meaning the more that you are holding your own soul frequency, it's heard in your voice. It's heard, it's felt in a transmission. When I'm sharing, there is a vibrational sharing with people. They are activated on a cellular, a DNA level. So again, from an awakening point of view, we can be awoken by someone's voice. We can be awoken by being in space with somebody else that is a higher frequency to us. We can be awoken by having sex with somebody that is of a higher frequency and has been doing, we'll call it alchemical work. It can happen through the dark night of the soul, where basically we've ignored all of the signs, the symbols, the nudges, and we've ignored it. We've stuck our head in the sand, and suddenly, I call it the big boot of the universe. You are so off path that things get stripped from you. I don't recommend it. It was literally the path that I saw a lot of men going through probably about 7 or 8 years ago. It's not enjoyable. And because there was maybe not the emotional intelligence or the toolkit to be able to ride those waves, and also all of the emotional stuff that's come up, which was completely alien. And even 7 years ago, I would say there was less awareness around trauma then. People were diving deep into addictions. And we all choose our own adventure to a degree. But we have to understand that our soul has chosen, A, for you to be here on this planet at this time, to go through this big evolution, which is also a refinement. It's an illumination. It's about really letting go of all of the layers that you've taken on that are not yours, and understanding that the stories that have been created about yourself, or the unmet needs that have made you feel that on some level you're not worthy, and off the back of that you walk into every area of your life holding that frequency, and because of that you experience more of the same. on a 3D brain level, that kind of gives the perspective, well, that's all I've experienced is rejection, abandonment, but it's not the core of your truth. And we do choose core wounding to come in with. Core wounding is like the abandonment, the rejection, the separation illusion, because actually, in truth, you're multidimensional. You are an aspect of source. You're always valued, and we're all connected, not in some weird codependency way. So when we start to talk about soul purpose, the more we connect to ourselves, the more we realize that we have said yes to somebody else's perspective of us and our life and what we're following and the paths and everything else, the more we get this desire to realign, desire to activate and do something about it. And that comes with a deeper connection to what's called our higher self. And our higher self is part of your soul, but it is the next dimensional aspect of self, the closest higher aspect of self to be able to bring through. Now, I ran immersions called the Multidimensional Priestess Immersion, and I've done it over the past few years for select groups of women. And it is the kind of initiation that they would have done in Egypt, in the temples of light. So that would have been like the, if you can imagine, like the Emerald Tablet, Thoth. Those are some of the beings that we work with, and the consciousness that we work with through the Akashic Records. You would have gone through an initiation to call in your higher aspect. And in doing so, you would go through a rebirth. You would heal and alchemize the illusion, i.e. the pain, the trauma, the stories, the old timelines, the things that you were holding on to that were not your soul. So that includes any of the past experiences that you've had where you are holding on to, whether it's limiting beliefs, whether it's a trauma, whether it is a looping pattern that you're in, whatever else it is, everything can be alchemized. And in that Egyptian period, we would have gone through initiations. We would have chosen to go through initiations which were overseen, meaning you had guidance at least. Therefore, they were not drawn out over thousands of years. And that's kind of what we've had over the past 4,000 or 5,000 years since the temple times were really shut down due to sort of Roman and Christianity influence. That rite of passage of being able to have our soul evolution and our growth, where it was overseen, it was supported, you had connection to your guidance team and the different spiritual beings and the different teams. You had a file path. You had others that you could see that had gone through different levels of initiation. You understood your multidimensional consciousness. And that's why there was so much magic. And magic is real, and magic does not disappear. And anything from Egypt is still active, as is the stuff from Babylon, as is the stuff from, Middle Ages. That is about energy kind of manipulation for either dark or light. There isn't actually judgment in that, but there is karma, depending on how it's been used. So we were magical beings. And much of the awakening process at this time is we haven't got the temple, we haven't got the high priestess and the priest to guide us, we haven't got any file path, really. We're kind of looking around us and going, well, why am I here and what's my purpose? And none of this really makes any sense. And I'm really unhappy with my life. But all I've got to compare against is what's going on Instagram. And as I've just mentioned about the false idols, the celebrities, your Instagram is the false idols. It's the inversion. It's to make us actually try to use our creative life force energy to create a life that is not actually real, because that is a distraction technique. It actually keeps you from going into your soul, connecting to your soul, finding out what is really aligned for you, your purpose, why you're here. And when you access that, you access the most potent energy infusion to any idea, to any project, to any business venture that you bring through you. So everything that takes you away from that inner centeredness is a distraction, and it's key. It's part of the consciousness of the 3D. We've been trained consciously to believe the inversion, the outside in. It's the opposite. It's the inside out. That's how we're creating. So when we begin to start to play with this stuff, when we begin to start to realize, well, wait a minute, I was getting this guidance and I just never trusted it, or I always knew this, but I never really listened to it. This is the thing that we're being initiated into, is to start to listen to the whispers, start to listen to the guidance, start to listen. And it won't be fear-based. And it will likely have said consistent things. And there will have been some red flags and some warnings, and you ignore them, and then you walk into it and you're like, my God, this is created, this is manifested. I knew this was going to happen. As things quicken, as frequency rises, you're going to notice more synchronicity. There's something on this plane called the non-interference laws, which means that your guidance team and spiritual consciousness outside of the 3D reality cannot intervene without you asking, without your permission. It doesn't mean you don't have support. You do. Again, if we were not initiated because we did not get that support to teach us these things, we don't know who's actually there to help us. And this is where there's something called the fourth code of creation. It's spoken word. So often we have no understanding that the words that we use are commands. So you start commanding in the morning, I call forth and invoke my guides, my teachers, my angels, surround me, overlight me now. I ask for you to align me to the highest experience of love, joy, prosperity, and abundance in my day now. I ask you to start to clear the path so that I only interact with those that have positive intention today. Remove those from my experience that have malevolence or ill intent towards me, and I ask for the veils of illusion to be removed from them. I ask for any vows of secrecy to be rescinded, and I command that you show me who these people are in my life. You can return that back and write it down. Your words have power. And notice when I say this, there is a frequency I shift, because it's my soul calling and commanding. If you were to start your day saying things like that, calling in your teams, notice how you feel. Notice how your day starts to unravel. Notice how you get shown the person that's not good for you, and they start to show their true colors because you've just asked for their veils of illusion, whatever they're playing at, to be stripped down. People show you who they are. Start to ask for that. It will make your path a lot easier. When you realize how powerful we all are and how connected we all are to so many teams that are available to help us, and there's a piece of refinement there. There's also, we are multidimensional beings. We have played all manner of roles, and we do need to clean up our teams, meaning we need to know who's on them. We don't wildly just trust. You won't walk up to somebody in the street and ask them for financial advice, just as you would not ask a spirit guide randomly that you have no connection with for financial advice. I've seen lots of wonkiness like that. We have to learn discernment. But asking your guides, teachers, and angels, that kind of thing, will start to open you up to soul, start to open you up to my words have power, my words have potency. And if you'll notice in the work that I do, in the sort of the high priestess roles, I am calling, I'm invoking, I am organizing the energy, and I'm using my voice, I'm using my body, I'm using telepathy, I'm using my tools. A shaman would do something similar. We just haven't been taught this stuff. It doesn't mean that you can't use those skills or that they are somehow cut off from you. But it is a skill. You wouldn't jump in a car and expect to drive and be able to not have an accident. You would need to know about some level of safety and boundaries and which direction to go in, how to operate the sat nav. So consider that your journey of your soul journey is also a journey of expansion, of enhancing your intuitive abilities with really strong boundaries. There has been a lack of awareness around the unseen consciousness, meaning 4D and above, it has had control over us. We've been held back by money. We've been restricted by ancestors from, marrying or creating relationships we wanted, because we haven't used our voice. We haven't understood the assignment as we've come here. We haven't reclaimed our sovereignty for free will choice, because we haven't even known we've got free will. So when we start to step into our power and we're like, well, wait a minute, like, what things have not flowed in my life? Who's been puppeteering my life? What have I said yes to unconsciously or come in with? And it's at that point we start to do the inner healing, the clearing work at soul level, and shift the energetics. And that is how we manifest. We clear, we realign, then we take the action from the higher frequency set point, and the doors open. We recognize that we are creating and interacting on a multidimensional level, whether we like it or believe it or not. It's not shouting out to some sky daddy. It's like you have the potency and power to direct the ship. And it's a co-creation. So the more that you are working in alignment with teams, and you're challenging things, and you're asking things, and you're being curious, or you're desiring to learn, what you actually do is you actually get the opportunity to connect more with who you are as a soul. You understand who you've been, which means you have a better understanding of karma, what you're clearing, and how to shift that out, which will shift your complete path and timeline. You will understand that also how much your relationship with everything needs refinement. The relationship with your body, the relationship with your sexuality, your sexual energy, your relationship with money. All the things that we hold as stories, as belief programs, everything, it's all created by man-made stuff. It's like literally lucky dip of whatever timeline you were in, or whatever experience your ancestors have, or where you have, incarnated into. You are taking on this smorgasbord of mixture of other people's regurgitated stuff, and then we're somehow meant to like function in society and have these skills and manifest and create. But we're holding a lot of illusion, and I'll call it blanket it under illusion, because then you begin to allow yourself to detach. There's not this is the only truth, because it really isn't. And when you begin to understand that soul purpose means you are tapping into soul, and then you are beginning to create from soul. You start to live your life with more flow. You take the guidance, you take the steps, things begin to move more smoothly because you're in alignment, and you start to be moved into experiences that are in alignment for the growth of your soul. And they're going to feel the best as well. And there is a maneuvering process in the beginning. There's a refinement process, if we call that. And, that's often what I'm working with my clients on, because you can't see what you can't see. And I fast track that. So it's like, come and learn, because you get access to my encyclopedia. I can show you the playgrounds and what to ask and who to play with. And that accelerates your growth. But it also means that you start to trust yourself more. And when we're looking at soul purpose, it's going to evolve, it's going to change, it's going to shift. You're going to be asked to step out of your comfort zone again and again. So when we know that you're here for the growth and the expansion, therefore the growth and the expansion also require some level of support for you to do it. You're not doing it on your own. You're not here trying to hustle it up and, struggle on your own. That is the illusion, because from the 3D mindset, it's pretty much just you shout out to the sky daddy if you've got some kind of belief system there, and hope for the best. You've got so much more support teams, energetic alliance. When you say yes to soul, people like me, you'll find me in your life in some level, and I'll drop some information and share a code, and suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Now I see where I'm meant to be going. You will start to synchronistically attract in those people you have soul contracts with to help you, to accelerate you, to redirect you, to elevate you, to open doors. And you're learning all along. And whilst you go about your life, you are sharing your own energetic wisdom as well, just by being you. And in fact, that's the most important thing. Being unapologetically yourself and removing these layers of illusion and the masks and the way that we've suppressed ourselves and the way that we've played into these old paradigms and these boxes and these limitations and even the archetypes and man-made energetic fields of consciousness, we begin to free ourselves to actually be more of ourselves again, again, again. When we operate from that energy, it's magnetic. But it also means that you are tapped into this really potent, powerful energy source. You literally have source, soul, higher self channeled into you. So people often ask me, like, how do you create so much? How do you get all these things done? But then, you know, you take a lot of rest. You take maybe 3 days off in the week, or you're not working and hustling. Because I'm operating, when I bring this stuff through, is like this channel of light. It's potent. I don't need to go out and hustle, because that isn't really how things work energetically. It doesn't mean I don't do hard work. It doesn't mean I don't have strong foundations in the masculine energy to get things done and take action and follow through, but I'm not in that energy all the time. And it also means that we're dancing between masculine and feminine energy constantly, because that is part of us. Again, this is embodying your wholeness as a soul. In the 3D construct, we have been influenced by Abrahamic religions, which wiped out the feminine or demonized it. To do that is actually keeping you in like separation consciousness, because if you are to wipe out or demonize any part of whether male or female, you are separating something against yourself and the consciousness and connection to your soul and source. So again, keeps you out of your power, keeps you out of being this potent channel, essentially. And each of us are going to play our little roles in whatever way it is. It's not going to be the same. This is why business strategy that's cookie cutter, that says you have to do it my way, or, you know, there's no other way, is bullshit, because you've got no idea who that person is at soul level, what level of shadow work they've done. You don't know their energetic frequency. You also don't know how many people they have in their teams behind the scenes, because when I've gone in and lifted the bonnet, I realized that they have healers, they have shaman, they have people that are doing all the energetic work for them, and they're just turning up and talking about mindset. And then they're wondering why their clients don't get the results, because that's not the full picture of how this person created their results. So recognize that the information that you take is not really for cookie cutter. We're being asked to like tap into soul, which is going to be your unique expression. Nobody can have the same unique soul harmonic as you. Nobody has the same voice as you. Nobody has the same wisdom as you. You orchestrated your experiences, including your career, including whatever business stuff, including the failed relationships, all of it. And that, when you alchemize it, is part often of the transformation that you go on to create some level of purpose out of. And when we're looking at purpose, it is not confined to mean that you suddenly have to become a healer. This is a bit of a construct. You don't have to become a coach. You don't have to do any of those things. You could be somebody that is in a organization that is going to literally be this pillar of like, I've got the clear vision. I can see the higher perspective. I can see the corruption around me. I can see the illusion. I can see the bullying. I can see the inequality. I'm going to zoom out with my higher soul perspective on this perspective of this organization, and I'm going to use my voice for change. And when people come in with that conscious leadership, which is desperately needed at this time, because we're about to go into something called changing of the guard at the end of March. It's already started. There is going to be power back to the people, which means we need more conscious leaders in whichever guise we have. And that is exciting, but it also means that we have to really begin to come back to this inner work. And this is alien to most people because they're used to following, they're used to getting everything outside of themselves, they're used to copying. Now, when we go into the era of frequency, which we're already in, I can feel it. We can feel the bullshit. We can feel when something has come from somebody else authentically, when it is embodied and when it's not. That's going to start to be very clear. People are worried about AI, but quite frankly, if you look at an AI screen of even one of these people that look very human-like, tap into the energy. The frequency is completely different. You know it's AI. you'll be able to tell the difference between AI text and something that has come with the codex of somebody that has actually spoken it and it's come from them. So this is where your work around your heart field and your soul is going to actually guide you where you need to go, because it's going to be like an extra sensory vision and awareness for you to align to where you're meant to be, not out of fear where society is taking you. Because we are going to go through a big shift. We're going to go through a big shift, and it's a reset, which means lots of change, and it's going to look messy, and there's going to be lots of shadow that comes to the surface. This is the invitation to choose your path. And when we're looking at money, this is really interesting, because money also, we have a relationship with money. It's so emotionally charged, but the belief systems of money have been distorted since back in Babylon times. We hold particular karma around money. We also hold ancestral poverty vows and past life experiences around money and wealth, and that will be influencing us in this now moment. For women, we also collectively have not had equality around money. We've been currency, we have been the commodities, we have married for security, otherwise we were not able to get loans or able to survive on our own. And this isn't even that long ago. 1975, women had to get a man's signature for a credit card and a loan. And I understand into even the 90s, a woman in the UK would not have been able to get a rental agreement on a property on her own with children. So that means that even to maybe, I'm 42 now, so those that were teenagers in the 90s potentially were in homes where there was financial abuse or control, or parents didn't split up because, mum couldn't leave because she would have either left the children, lost the children, or could not, work or support herself. So we've got effects of that literally create our own money stories. And this is really powerful for us at this time. It's part of our sovereignty, and it's part of the female awakening and healing that we're going through, is to heal our money story, which is our money karma. It's also the belief systems we have around it. And it's also around understanding that our nervous system is literally triggered around money, wealth, financial decisions, choices, investments. And as somebody who grew up in an environment where there was financial control and financial abuse, so much that I escaped at 18, I became financially independent at 18. I then went and worked for 20 years in global investment banks, cross asset class, through multiple crashes, recessions, all of it. So I have quite a diverse perspective, and I still had loads of stuff to clear through, because I realized that even in the banking system, where the numbers are sky high and you become immune to certain numbers because you are working with them every day, there is still belief constructs there that are not of highest truth. So when it comes back to the energetics of money, money is an energetic resource to actually support soul purpose. And when we begin to tap into that, and when we begin to make money an ally, when we begin to say yes to soul, we begin to actually say yes to the financial consciousness to actually come in and support us at the same time. When we create I call it the soul purpose vehicle, i.e. your 3D business or your vehicle for money to come into, it's a money channel. So when we begin to heal these connections, and it's a triad, source, soul, and money. So we are going through not only a financial reset, but the more we move into a high consciousness of self, i.e. we're beginning to be guided more by soul, we're also tapping into, soul is infinite. Soul is tapped into quantum. We know it's infinite potential, infinite possibilities, infinite resource and abundance. And we know that. However, we are working through 3D construct, which is all the belief systems, which have basically been scarcity, lack, fear. And it's, of course, very real. It's felt through our biology. But when we can begin to understand that that is not the only truth, and actually part of our evolution is to alchemize the illusion, shall we say, so that we can actually align to our truth, which is abundance. And knowing that, well, I never really need to worry about what I'm doing next year, because my soul is going to bring through the next piece that I need to birth in, project or product or idea. tapping into that level of abundance is about you saying yes to soul. And, you know, that can get pretty wild at times. I remember at one point, it was like literally I was being downloaded like information after information to bring through in programs. There was no limit there. I also didn't need to sit there and go, how? I didn't need to try and plan ahead 6 months because, quite frankly, I was being the vessel. And yeah, that's part of what we're moving into. So it also means that it's unlimited from a monetary point of view. And that doesn't mean that we don't need financial literacy. We do. This is a big thing. Like there's some amazing female companies at the moment that are really raising the bar with like financial literacy for women. And these are skills that we all need. They are skills that we need to begin to understand so that we get comfortable, so that we feel confident, so that we essentially have a baseline knowledge, so that when we are tapping into soul, when we are bringing our products out, when we are pricing ourselves, we're not undervaluing ourselves, we're not contracting our energy, we're not creating things from split energy because it's throwing up all the background stuff around worthiness and I can't ask that much and blah, blah, blah. When you start to really align to soul, expansion, bigger vision, bigger impact, you're going to need more money to support you in doing that. And that's really into the next level, which is the spiritual investor. The spiritual investor is somebody who is creating their main level of, you know, wealth through soul. And it means that that money then gets to not only support them in their lifestyle, in their lineage, in their legacy, it also means they get to use their money to create the future of the world we want, i.e. by investing in organizations, businesses, products, services that align to their values. So it means that soul produced money, shall we say, gets to generate and support many, many others. It becomes a positive energy that gets to be shared, not just siphoned away or hoarded. It's about literally there has to be some level of movement there. And that includes investing in our own growth. It includes your business is going to need to grow. You're still going to need practical skills. Those 3D things are not going away. But when we start to combine the higher wisdom that you don't get given an idea, you don't get given the gifts, you don't given any of this stuff without it being for you. And when we say yes, we start to get more. And when we have the right financial literacy, we have our beliefs are not funky about money, and we also have a vehicle, i.e. we have some way of a container generating or a business of some sort, we can start to really, you know, flex that. And money into the hands of those that are going to make positive change in this world is going to be part of how we literally shift on this planet. And for some people, they might be still in the very limited 3D mindset and they'll be like, oh, I can't see that. I don't see that happening. I'm watching the news and it's doing this. There are multiple things happening on this planet at this time with many conscious leaders making big changes. It's just that they are not on the mainstream trajectory. People aren't seeing it yet. So don't get into the I'm the only one doing this, because you're not. And we need a collective consciousness with those that step forth and say yes, because at that point, then you begin to energetically connect in with new soul tribe or people that have a same collective interest. And recognizing that that is also a soul contract. You will be aligned with others who are here to be the change makers, the thought leaders, the whatever it is, that catalyst. And you will be asked to often say yes to things that you might be the first one at this time. And that's okay, because it's not like this is the first time that you'll be doing those things. You will be re-embodying part of your gifts and mastery from other timelines, i.e. bringing more of your soul in. And it feels very natural. It feels very easy, and it feels pleasure filled. It lights you up. It's exciting. You're enthused by it. That's part of the gift. So you don't get drained by doing your soul purpose work, because you are literally channeling more of who you are and source at the same time. And You can feel that in people. You can feel that. And that is available to you. And this is an invitation, like when we are, and this is another thing, it takes a level of radical self-responsibility. It takes self-commitment. It takes deep inner trust. These are initiations to really connect into self. And no one can do it for you. There's no guarantees, because if you don't take that next step, if you don't say yes, if you don't create some level of momentum, you're the one that needs to bring it into 3D. So there's a lot of stuff in like the manifestation stuff. Oh, I've manifested, I put my wishes out there, I've done a vision board, I've prayed. Manifestation and creating your life is not passive, but aligning it with energetic universal laws and your teams and your purpose, and starting to really level up, things will open and move very quickly for you, including the money. And this is like clarion call time. So because I realized that I've brought through so much information, so many codes, so many multi-levels here, because I know this is going out to communities that may not have had access to this before. So I'm breaking this down. And to also add around money consciousness, if you can refine your judgment of money and the judgment of others that have money and the stories of what you think that means, you will lessen the gap between you actually bringing something in. They're saying to me that the relationship that you have with money, imagine if that was a person. So if you hold mistrust, almost like money's bad, or, rich people are all bad and they make bad decisions with money and they're greedy and they're this, that, the other, and business. What you're doing is you're creating separation consciousness from money as a consciousness to come into your field and collaborate with you. So it's actually about understanding the energetics of the beliefs and the judgments that you hold, and how that is also creating and cultivating your reality. And understanding that there is also something they're asking me to bring forth, is that there is a saying, if it's good enough for the father, it's good enough for the son. And what that actually energetically translates to is that often you can't out earn the collective family kind of like cap on money. And you might find yourself up against these like limits, and you'll find yourself, you come up against them, and then there's like either you lose something, a big bill comes in, something goes wrong. That isn't feast or famine, but it is an upper limit. And it's an upper limit that's something that's inherited. So when we begin to feed into and get a feeling for some of these things, also, if you were to be really saying yes to soul, fully expanded out there, living a completely radically different life to the rest of your lineage, because you were following soul and that was the most authentic thing for you, and you were actually being a pioneer on this planet to live a different way because it inspired other people that could become their norm as well if they took those steps. Often what will happen is we will hold ourselves back because we, on a intrinsic unconscious level, believe that that would mean we have to disconnect from our families. So on some level, we don't go too far beyond the parameters because we worry that we would have to almost like sacrifice that relationship. That is an illusion, meaning it's soul contracts, it's karmic, it's stuff that needs to be energetically cleaned up, but it will play out in your business. It will play out in the choices that are available to you, because this is all about energy. So remember that the influence of money consciousness is not just from yourself in this lifetime. It's influenced by your partner, by maybe the work organization you're in, the collective fields that you're in, your family. So this is where we get to do the refinement work proactively. For those people that have worked with me in the past that are transitioning from corporate to maybe running their own businesses, I always say use your business as almost like the angel investor. So that means that you are not putting the pressure on yourself immediately to like leave the steady paycheck, and then you've energetically got to generate the money immediately. because it takes an energetic adjustment to go from just like employed to entrepreneur, for example. And that sometimes means that it can actually create a bit of a wobble anyway. So it can affect money coming in. So I will often coach my clients to do the inner money work first, so they clear these potential blocks and bits and pieces that, you know, show up before they make the leap, so that actually they are very stabilized in their nervous system and in how to create the expansion without being triggered, without being pulled off course. And I've seen it with startups actually. Generally they'll have huge growth, and then something will happen to, say, the founder in their family. They energetically are not able to deal with the emotional shift, which has a vibrational shift, which then translates to the money as well. The flow stops. So again, everything is interconnected. When we're in inner chaos, it will translate into your business. Your business entity has a connection energetically to you. So this isn't just in the day-to-day 3D business. At soul level, your business has a energetic soul frequency consciousness. So when we start to really play in soul alignment, we are bringing forth all of that, the money, soul, and source, and then bringing in the business entity consciousness. And that's where we really are starting to expand way past the normal linear parameters. That might sound quite out there for people, but what I've actually done is I've created something called the Soul Wealth Program, which is free. You will have seen in the invite that there is a link, and you can sign up there, and it will start sending you the videos. I have to explain stuff in conscious awareness, then we can do a clearing and an activation, because if you don't have conscious awareness, you will not be able to clear any of the energetic blocks, and you will also not be able to just access some of the deeper pieces there, because critical thinking, you know, critical factor really blocks you from allowing that information to penetrate. So there's some really powerful things in there. It allows you to connect with your higher self. It allows you to get that information from your higher self, your soul. So you'll start to get guidance and visions and information that might be the blind spots that are holding you back at the moment. You'll then be able to connect into the soul of your business. So again, finding out what's going on there. It might identify particular misalignments. Maybe you are offering certain products that are not in alignment anymore in your business, and actually you need to refine that. You might get told you need to pivot. You might get told, be careful about signing up with that, you know, new business partner. Investigate. There's maybe something else outstanding there. Your business entity will communicate to you, and I take you through a process of how to do that. There is an energy activation, because all of this is energy, and for you to hold more money, more light, your energetic field and your container needs to be able to do that. So it takes you through quite a simple step-by-step over the few days of really entering into the new era of frequency in money, for wealth consciousness, for business, collaborating with soul. It's not about suddenly disappearing off and necessarily stepping out of the mainstream society. We need to be able to hold these soul aligned businesses and share that amongst our communities, so that we create the ripple effect around us. There is a kind of a, I don't know, kind of a spiritual piece where, you know, a lot of people disappear off. They're in the jungle, they go off to Bali, and I'm going to be a nomad, I need to go and live in a cave. But through this next wave, the change makers that are the experts in many different industries, they need your expertise. You're going to be the experts that come up with the new innovation to create the positive change. So you're being called to really step up where you are. I mean, that might mean changing where you live. You might go and live in a different country, etc. But there's not going to be this hermit thing, which a lot of people disappear off into. You know, I'm going to go and live in my cave, and I'll do my inner work, and I'll escape reality. You're being asked to ground your spiritual consciousness and awareness whilst in form, and live it out uniquely to you, without judgment, without dogma, without rights and wrongs, and everybody needing to believe the same thing as you, because we will never on this planet get to a point where everybody believes the same thing. We are all coming from different viewpoints and lenses of consciousness at different frequencies, from different origins. We're not designed to all be the same. But can we hold positive, heartfelt regard for somebody else that holds a different opinion to us, whilst remaining neutral without needing to, picket, convince, cajole, and, any of that? That's part of our evolution. It's like choose your own battles. Can you listen with detachment? And that is going to be a big piece as we go through so many changes. Because if you just go on Instagram, you've got 20 different people's opinions shouted at you. As an expert, I say call it back to yourself and find out and tap into your own inner expert and see what starts to come through that's unique for you, that works for you, that feels good for you, and strengthen that connection, and things in your life will start to transform. So if you have any questions around this, reach out to me on Pure Light, www.purelight1111.com. If you want to ask a question for the next Ask Alara, send an email to askalara@mail.com. And I'm bringing through really transmissions. This is something that probably about a month ago, my teams said to me, you need to create this. It's almost like, the high priestess agony aunt almost, but I'm going to go through so many different layers, because whoever needs to listen to this at whatever point, there is an access point there for them that is also grounded. Like I'm living a grounded experience whilst accessing, the multidimensional realms. It's embodied. It's who I am. I'm owning my gifts. And that's the invitation that all of us are being invited into, because what often happens with the kind of identity shift that happens when you have a spiritual awakening is you kind of let go of your one identity and maybe latch on to some of the spiritual communities or the dogma. It's very easy to then get molded into something else, because sadly, that's kind of what's happened in those communities, but it's being dismantled. You're being asked to step into who you uniquely are at soul, and that is an investigation, it's a refinement, it's an adventure, and you get to decide, nobody else. And this time round, we are not disappearing off in the caves. We are also not disappearing off to the temple. It's about integrating our gifts and our need for energy hygiene and these toolkits in our day-to-day, in our workplaces, in our homes, helping our children, in our classrooms. It's the embodiment piece, which we really haven't had on this planet for many, many years. So sending you lots of love. I hope this has been useful. And I've got lots of comments which I will catch up on. Actually, whilst I'm on here and people are still here, has anyone got any questions they want to pop in, and I will answer for you? Let's see. Oh, I've got something coming through. I don't know if comments, if anybody wants to pop a question through, it looks like it's doing something, but it's not popping up for me. If anyone did have a question, send it through and it should come up in the feed. And I can come back to that later and I'll answer it in the comments. Yeah, I hope, let me know if this has been useful for you. So yeah, Tabitha, what I've just mentioned is there is a program called the Soul Wealth Program. It's free. There is a link that has, I'll pop it under the YouTube. So if you go to Alara Dawn, the Modern Day High Priestess on YouTube, once this is finished, I will post this up. It will have a link, so you'll be able to download the program. That is going to give you the conscious awareness of, the depths of what we're looking at. And then it's going to give you the clearing, the meditation, the activation to actually start accessing this stuff. This is really a starting point to get more people connecting to their 5D consciousness, to the new wealth consciousness, and starting to align business to soul. And it then has the invitation. I do something called quantum business accelerator sessions. So you might be like, okay, well, I have all these blocks in my business. I really could do with being able to see the unconscious and the unseen perspective of what is actually going on, so that I can quantum leap and make choices that are more aligned to soul. you'll have an invitation to book those. There's a few sessions that are available the rest of this month, and I'll be opening up March very soon. I work with people in all industries. So I've worked with a wealth manager today. I've got a trader that I'm working with tomorrow. I've got a mum, an artist, a physicist, so many different people. I've got healers, psychotherapists, some that are in more professional roles, some that are, you know, in more of the healing arts. It's a mixture, because I'm not working with you just because of the industry you're in. It's more about, are you ready for the expansion, the initiation, and the soul piece? If it's aligned at soul level, I'm ready to accelerate and work with people. So very much that's the calling. So yeah, this is literally how we step out of the linear, out of the 3D limitation, which is just literally projection of past into future, limiting beliefs. We know that there is so many timelines and opportunities, and because I'm neutral and detached from something and able to access the different morphogenic fields and the soul records and the different pieces of information for both the business and my clients, I can give you a new perspective so that you can basically make new choices and decisions that allow you to align to the expansion. So yes, it does not need to be super hard. Let me see if there's anything else here. And also I have a program called Money, Soul and Magic. And that also has a one-to-one session included within it, where we get to deep dive and I get to go in and really look at your whole energy architecture, your blueprint, what's going on for you, do the energetic clearing, but then you're literally working over 3 months with multiple activations, clearing through all the karma, aligning your soul purpose to the highest timeline, and really stepping into new levels of manifestation through that higher level consciousness. So that is an accelerator as well, and that's something that you can get instant access to. So again, there's many toolkits out here, and we're not going to be able to escape it. It's part of our sovereignty, is to elevate and release ourselves from the old limitations, and that includes money and also our feminine connection to money, and it's pretty deep. So but we need the money to be able to expand and live from our purpose and have the impact. So it's all coming up for people, and it's an opportunity through this massive wealth reset to really start to anchor in a new consciousness of money, and you know, that really will shift things for you. So sending you lots of love, lots of opportunity there, lots of options for support. You're not alone. Everybody's going through lots of shifts, and we're all going to be at different stages, but this is the point. We open the doors for others, and we compress the time around how long it takes, so people are not in this scarcity, chaos, dark night of the soul for years. We get to collapse it. We get to really accelerate collectively quicker. Sending you all lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.